The Book of Jubilees, often referred to as the Forbidden Secret, is one of the most enigmatic texts in Judeo-Christian tradition. It is an apocryphal book, meaning it was not included in the official biblical canon by most religious traditions. However, its content is deeply fascinating and controversial, filled with revelations that challenge the traditional biblical narrative. But why was it considered forbidden? The Book of Jubilees presents an alternative version of the story of Genesis, expanding on events and providing details not found in the traditional Bible. It covers events from the creation of the world up to the arrival of Moses, describing in-depth God's covenants, divine laws, and spiritual events that shaped humanity. However, its detailed approach to angels, demons, and the cyclical nature of time led to its rejection by many religious leaders throughout history. Let's dive into this story, uncover its hidden mysteries, and understand why this book became one of the most enigmatic and feared texts of antiquity. What is the Book of Jubilees? Imagine a book that reorganizes time, dividing human history into cycles of 49 years, called Jubilees. Unlike the traditional biblical chronology, which presents events in a linear fashion, the Book of Jubilees suggests that time follows predetermined, almost like a cosmic clock set by God at the beginning of creation. This concept is extremely powerful because it suggests that nothing happens by chance. Everything follows a cycle, repeating at different points in history. This means that events such as wars, the rise and fall of empires, and even human behavior follow a pattern predetermined by God since the dawn of time. But that's just the surface. The book also reveals hidden aspects about fallen angels, the Nephilim, and the struggle between divine and demonic forces, something that is rarely explored in traditional scripture. These details could completely change the way we understand the role of good and evil in human history. The lost text that reveals ancient secrets, the Book of Jubilees, was widely read by Jewish communities during the Second Temple period, 516 BCE 70. But it was But why? Some say that early Christian leaders and Jewish rabbis feared its content because it exposed secrets that could drastically alter the perception of Scripture. Others suggest that it contained dangerous revelations about the spiritual battle between God and the forces of darkness, something that could be considered heretical by the standards of the time. The most intriguing part: the book never completely disappeared. It was preserved by some Jewish and Christian communities in Ethiopia, where it is still considered sacred by the Ethiopian Orthodox Church today. It wasn't in 1947, with the discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls, that modern scholars gained access to fragments of this text, finally revealing its true significance. Mysteries about angels and the Nephilim. Now we come to one of the most controversial aspects of the Book of Jubilees: the fallen angels and the Nephilim. The traditional Bible briefly mentions the story of the sons of God who came to earth and had children with human women, Genesis 6:14. But the details are vague. However, the Book of Jubilees provides a much deeper narrative of these events, explaining how these angels taught forbidden secrets to humanity. According to the book, the fallen angels taught humans how to create weapons of war, how to manipulate metals and jewelry, advanced techniques of magic and sorcery, hidden knowledge about the heavens and celestial bodies. These teachings led to the corruption of humanity, becoming one of the main reasons why God decided to send Noah's flood to cleanse the earth. But what happened after the flood? The book of Jubilees suggests that even after the Nephilim were destroyed, their souls continued to roam the earth as evil spirits, influencing humans and leading them to ruin. The secret rules of God's covenant, another fascinating aspect of the book of Jubilees, is its focus on divine laws and God's covenant with his chosen people. Unlike the traditional Bible, which presents Mosaic laws in a more general way, the book of Jubilees provides specific details on each commandment, emphasizing that God's laws are eternal and unchangeable. It even states that angels themselves follow these laws, and that any attempt to alter them is an act of rebellion against God. This raises a very intriguing question. If God's laws have always been the same, why have so many religions changed their practices over time? The book suggests that hidden spiritual forces may have influenced these changes, leading people away from the true path. Why was the book of Jubilees considered dangerous? Now that we understand the content of this mysterious book, it becomes clear why it was considered so dangerous to early church and religious leaders. It didn't just challenge the official biblical narrative, it also presented a cyclical view of time, suggesting that history repeats itself. Forbidden details about fallen angels, revealing hidden truths about evil in the world, immutable laws of God, contradicting some modern interpretations of Scripture throughout history. Many tech. Conclusion. What does this mean for us today? The Book of Jubilees remains one of the most mysterious texts in history, raising deep questions about faith, the origin of evil, and the destiny. The Nephilim and the corruption of humanity. The Nephilim were not just physically gigantic, but also beings of great power and knowledge, inheritors of both celestial and earthly essence. The Book of Jubilees describes how these hybrids brought great destruction to the world. They possessed superhuman abilities and an insatiable appetite. According to the text, they devastated the earth, consuming its resources and even resorting to cannibalism, attacking and devouring human beings. Furthermore, the fallen angels taught humans forbidden knowledge, including the creation of weapons, how to forge swords, spears, and other instruments of war, alchemy and metallurgy, the use of precious metals, and the crafting of enchanted jewelry, magic and sorcery, secret rituals that connected humans to spiritual entities, astrology and divination, how to interpret the stars to predict future events. These teachings corrupted humanity, leading people to abandon divine ways and descend into sin and idolatry. The world fell into a state of chaos, and it was at this point that God decided to intervene, sending the flood to cleanse the earth of the Nephilim's corruption. What happened to the Nephilim after the flood? Here lies one of the greatest mysteries of the Book of Jubilees. The text suggests that even after the Nephilim's bodies were destroyed in the flood, their souls did not disappear, because they were hybrids, both human and celestial. Their souls could not ascend to heaven nor return to earth as ordinary beings. Thus, their souls became wandering spirits, known as demons. These spirits began to roam the world, tormenting humanity and influencing people to commit evil acts. The Book of Jubilees suggests that many of the evil spirits that still haunt the world today are, in fact, the remnants of the Nephilim, seeking revenge against humanity. This raises an unsettling question. If the Nephilim never completely disappeared, do they still have influence over the modern world? The lost text that reveals ancient secrets, the Book of Jubilees, is considered one of the most important lost texts of biblical history because it provides hidden details about events that were omitted or only briefly mentioned in the traditional Bible. But why was this book hidden and removed from the biblical canon? The exclusion of the Book of Jubilees during the early centuries of Christianity. Religious leaders decided which texts would be considered sacred and which would be excluded. Even though the Book of Jubilees was widely read and respected by Jews and Christians in the early centuries, it was removed from most Western Bibles. The reason? Many believe that the book revealed spiritual and historical secrets that could change the perception of Scripture. Among the reasons for its exclusion, we can highlight